Well, yeah, he does seem to be the days a bit like he's had a Glasgow kiss. He's suddenly all woke and talking about climate and electric cars. But the ANZ, that analysis you've run earlier on the program today about nickel and the contribution that is making to the climate change problem, the very carbon-intensive method of getting nickel out of the ground, which is something that electric cars currently rely on heavily. I think he might want his nickel back.
On our morning show on Friday, it's time for us to take a look at the week that was, and I've got Rikki Lambert with me. Good morning, Rikki.
G'day, Wayne. How are you?
I want to ask you about, has Scott Morrison's battery run out? Is he starting to look like things are just not going right and he's now policy on the run? Or as John McDonnell, our Flow News 24 expert, put it, he may be policy on the drive in a four-wheel drive Tesla.
I think, like one of my daughter's school friends we picked up the other day, she had to put her phone on the charger because she'd run out of battery. And I think Mr. Morrison thinks he's got a surge of energy out of Glasgow and the climate talks, but maybe he got a Glasgow kiss there because he seems to be wandering around in the days endorsing the same electric cars that he didn't support at the last election.
Well, was it a poor policy move from him? Is he now stuck in a car with Zali Steggall? Is he kind of put himself in a corner? Because by going to Toyota, to the electric vehicle manufacturing plant to have a look at the future of that, has Scott Morrison crossed over after Glasgow, but is the electric going to support that?
Well, yeah, he does seem to be in a daze a bit like he's had a Glasgow kiss. He's suddenly all woke and talking about climate and electric cars. But the ANZ, that analysis you've run earlier on the program today about nickel and the contribution that is making to the climate change problem, the very carbon-intensive method of getting nickel out of the ground, which is something that electric cars currently rely on heavily. I think he might want his nickel back.
Nickel back, well said. It is interesting because with nickel, it is a very expensive mineral and it's a very important component of batteries. It's also a component of solar panels too. So it is interesting that if you are going to, as China's Tsingshan Group announced earlier, and we mentioned this, that their nickel pig iron plant, their operation in Indonesia, it's costing them for the average production of 13 tonnes of carbon that comes out, you get a very small ton of nickel.
Well, maybe he's trying to woo Mr. Clive Palmer, who owns a nickel mine in Vanuatu last time I checked.
Yes, I think so. There's a fair bit to be said, though, that if we haven't yet got enough of the rare earth minerals and we're still looking to find those and to put them into batteries, Scott Morrison's jumping on the bandwagon this early in the piece, given that Australia is, if you like, using a whole range of other commodities. I mean, we've got diesel oil. We see the price of diesel at the moment is sky high. Has he jumped ship from the fossil fuels and from our vehicle industry in that context to, say, new vehicles and batteries? But with 50,000 chargers, has he gone too early?
Well, I think he's simply missed a massive opportunity here. China has announced 130 new nuclear plants that they will be implementing on the back of their net zero commitments. France has about 14 new nuclear plants they're going to implement. I would have thought Mr. Morrison's base would have been more attracted to him pivoting in the direction of nuclear. The British government, Boris Johnson's government, giving $250 million to Rolls-Royce to roll out small modular reactors in the early 2030s. I would have thought that's where Scott Morrison wanted to go on the energy debate.
It's an energy debate that we'll continue to have here if Scott Morrison's now putting his green credentials out to the public. There's around about 5 or 6 months for them to decide whether he's gone that direction too quickly for maybe his original vote, those that have supported him for a long time, or whether or not we're going to see a new government. I think at this moment his battery is well and truly flat.